Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking your time to join us this morning for our last virtual session of the SDG Summit. Just before we begin today's session, I want to mention on behalf of the SDGA, am streaming in from Calgary, Alberta, and I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge the traditional territories on which we and the University of Calgary are situated on today. So, in the spirit of respect, reconciliation, and reciprocity, we honor and acknowledge the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 people of southern Alberta, in particular the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Stoney Nakoda Nations, Tsuut'ina First Nation, and Métis Nations of Alberta Region 3. We also recognize that the University of Calgary is situated on land adjacent to where the Bow River meets the Elbow River, and that the traditional Blackfoot name of this place is Mohkinstsis, which we now call the city of Calgary. And now, without any further ado, I'm excited to introduce Daphne Mongo, Youth Engagement Coordinator of the Climate Reality Project Canada. And so I'll now pass it on to Daphne here. And if you could give us a brief rundown on what the Climate Reality Project even is to start us off, that would be really amazing. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for introducing me. So, hello, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. My name is Daphne, and I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator at the Climate Reality Project Canada. And I'm actually speaking today from Tiohtià:ke, commonly known as Montreal, a site of meeting and exchange among Indigenous peoples. So, to give you quickly an overview of what we do here at our organization, so the Climate Reality Project Canada is an organization that's dedicated to catalyzing a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across every level of society. So, to tackle climate change, we focus on greenhouse gas emissions and also on education and grassroots action as the solution. So, our approach is really rooted in the empowerment of citizens. We're dedicated to equipping them to be effective catalysts for change in their communities. And a little bit later in the presentation, I'll be kind of describing you all of our programs and where you can get involved. So, no worries for that. It will come up later in the presentation. But today I'll be presenting the Truth in 10 presentation, a presentation that was actually created by the founder of Climate Reality Project and ex-vice president of the United States, Al Gore. So it should take about 30 minutes, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. I'll share my screen to share my little presentation. Alrighty. So I can no longer see the chat or any faces. So please, if there's anything that happens, feel free to just stop me, unmute yourself, and let me know if you have any questions or if my Wi-Fi is lagging or anything like that. So let's get started. So this is the first picture of the Earth fully illuminated that any of us ever saw. It was taken on the last of the Apollo missions, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. It reminded us that we're all connected and that our actions all have an impact on our planet. So there are only 3 questions remaining about the climate crisis. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? So first of all, must we change? Well, the scientific community all around the world has been telling us for a long time that yes, we must change. But now Mother Nature is telling us even louder that it has to happen. So the sky is not a vast and limitless expanse the way that it appears to us as we stand on the ground and look up. In reality, it's really just a thin shell of atmosphere surrounding the planet. And yet, we are putting 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the atmosphere every single day. And that pollution, especially carbon dioxide, is building up and it's trapping heat. So here's the basic science of global warming, and this has been understood by scientists since the 1800s. But energy from the sun comes to Earth in the form of light. That energy is then absorbed by the Earth and warms it. Some of that energy is then re-radiated from the Earth in the form of heat. And some of that outgoing heat is then trapped by the atmosphere, which is a good thing because it keeps our planet at a stable temperature. So we want that. But now, however, the problem is that we've been thickening the atmosphere by filling it with heat trapping pollution. So more heat energy is trapped and it's warming our planet at an incredible rate. So there are many human sources that cause global warming pollution. I'm sure you're all aware of them. But for example, there's agricultural practices, there's forest burning, there's transportation, and many other factors. But really, the main source and cause of the rising global temperatures we're seeing today is the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels still provide more than 80% of the world's energy. Fossil fuel use and emissions have gone up dramatically since World War II. In the last few years, there was a leveling off as the world adopted a little bit more clean energy solutions, but until another recent spike in global warming pollution. So we really have to act now. As a result of this pollution being trapped in the atmosphere, global temperatures have risen dramatically, as you can see on this graph. In fact, 19 of the 20 hottest years ever measured with instruments have happened since 2001. The hottest year of all was 2016. And it doesn't appear on this PowerPoint, but 2020 is now the second hottest year behind 2016, which is pretty crazy. So heat itself is a problem in many parts of the world and many parts of this country even. Heat affects not only people, but animals, crops, and our weather, as we'll see in this presentation. So you can actually see on this photo a man who succumbed to heat exhaustion, and he's being moved by two medical professionals in front of Trinity Church in the city of Boston. On a global basis, more than 90% of all the extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is actually going into our oceans, which makes ocean-based storms like we know hurricanes, cyclones, stronger and more destructive than ever. Half of the increase in global ocean heat content has actually occurred in less than 20 years. And Hurricane Florence is an example of that, and it produced really record-breaking rainfall across portions of North and South Carolina. Another consequence that is that the extra heat that also disrupts the water cycle. So the amount of water vapor that evaporates off of the ocean increases as the ocean warms. So the water vapor is carried over the land and actually falls in much bigger precipitation events. And when the land can't absorb all of the water that falls in these larger storms and downpours, well, we see floods and mudslides. So extreme precipitation events have produced more rain and become more common since the 1950s in many regions around the world, including much of Canada. So this is an example of an extreme precipitation event that is called a supercell storm. It's actually quite beautiful, but you do not want it near you. Extreme precipitation events also lead to record flooding, which, like I just mentioned, which has been happening all over the world, like you see in this one picture in India. Sometimes people wonder how global warming can be blamed for causing more precipitation and flooding, but at the same time, more drought, which is a good question. But I found that this image is really good to illustrate that. The extra heat trapped by rising level of greenhouse gases actually leads to both. And as the climate changes, precipitation patterns also change, leaving some places with less rainfall than before. So changing precipitation patterns can lead to drought and water shortages. So for example, in Brazil, Brazil actually suffered a devastating drought in 2015 and 2016. Higher temperatures also have a direct effect on the incidence and severity of wildfires. So here we see the number of large fires corresponds closely to years with higher average spring and summer temperatures, which makes sense. Just a little fun fact, which isn't really fun, but today the fire season in Western Canada is actually more than 100 days longer than in the 1970s, which is really not that long ago when you think about it. Well, and then it creates things like we know in Fort McMurray. So in 2016, this fire actually destroyed large parts of the cities of Fort McMurray in Alberta and forced the evacuation of over 100,000 people. And the number of climate-related extreme weather events has been going up worldwide, according to the insurance industry. So the last 2 years actually rank among the top 10 most expensive for overall disaster losses, with over $160 billion in losses in 2018 and $140 billion in 2019, which is crazy amounts of money. And this is another example. The first photo is of a glacier in southwest Greenland, and it was shot in the summer of 1935, and it shows glaciers' ice covering the walls. The second photo that you can see now is of the same glacier, which had almost completely melted by 2013. So not even a century later, due to the rising temperatures. And all of this extra melting is actually raising sea levels worldwide, which creates what we call sunny day floods. So this flooding actually happened in Miami Beach, Florida, on a sunny day with no rain. High tides now regularly flood the streets of Miami Beach, as well as several other coastal cities around the world. And this situation will only get worse as sea levels continue to rise. Now, some of the cities that are most at risk for flooding are actually some of the most populated cities. So for example, Miami is the #1 city at risk in terms of assets at risk, along with New York, Shanghai, and other cities, like you can see on this graph. And looking at cities at risk by population, we see that many huge cities in developing countries are very much in danger. And if parts of these cities become uninhabitable, well, where will the people go, and who live there, where will they go? Well, we don't have an answer to that yet. And the Department of Defense in the United States has actually long warned us about refugee crises connected to the climate crisis, as well as pandemic diseases, water shortages, and food shortages. But there has been a lot of talks about refugees that are getting more and more concerning. So heat stress is now also beginning to decrease crop yields from rice, corn, and soybeans. Exposures to higher levels of carbon dioxide also decreases the nutrient content from these types of food. Infectious diseases, heat stress, air pollution, and waterborne diseases are all influenced by a changing climate, and definitely not in our favor. Warmer temperature also have an impact on the spread of tropical diseases. So modern transportation and air travel play a big part, but the potential range for many diseases actually expands as regions get warmer and warmer. Like you can see again on this graph of the diseases that are spreading much faster. So for example, the main mosquito that spreads Zika is now covering a wider range than ever. In warmer temperatures, the virus incubates faster and mosquitoes breed more and are able to transmit the disease longer. So the health impacts of the climate crisis are often overlooked, but we really will affect millions of people. In terms of biodiversity loss, well, we are now facing the worst extinction event since the extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, which is crazy. And all of these threats, including many that we haven't even covered here, says that climate change is the #1 threat to the global economy. So really, this helps us to answer the question that I just mentioned at the beginning: must we change? So do we have to change? Well, definitely, yes, we do. And I'm sure that you all knew that before. But what about the second question? Can we change? Well, the answer to this question is very exciting and positive. The answer is yes, because we've got the solutions available to us now. So look, for example, at renewable energy. Wind energy was actually predicted to provide 30 gigawatts of electricity worldwide by 2010. But as of 2019, we had exceeded that prediction by 22 times over, which is really encouraging. The growth in wind energy being built around the world is really an exponential curve. And wind energy could actually supply 40 times more electricity than the entire world currently uses. And solar energy is even more of an impressive story. So 18 years ago, the best projection was that we would install 1 gigawatt of solar energy capacity per year by 2010. But in 2019, we actually had exceeded that goal by 121 times. Even more dramatically than with wind, we see an exponential curve in the amount of solar energy installed around the world. And just as we've seen with other technologies such as computer chips and cell phones, solar costs have fallen dramatically. So in some regions, solar energy is actually less than half of the cost of electricity from burning coal. But what's really interesting about this is that in many countries where there's no universal electricity grid, we are seeing consumers and businesses leapfrog old technologies and install solar panels in places that have long been denied access to electricity. So Chile is actually a true solar success story thanks to its policy decisions. So there are many regions in the world where this type of growth is possible. And it's very impactful in terms of creating hope, which is why I love sharing it. So look at the graph, how much the growth in solar energy happened on the Chilean solar market. It's pretty incredible, and I really love sharing that story. So every hour, the Earth actually gets as much energy from the sun as we need to run the entire global economy for a year. So if we can increase the fraction of this energy that we harvest and use, well, we can make a lot of progress towards solving the climate crisis and helping local economies at the same time. So within the next 8 years, there's also the highly efficient LED lights that are predicted to virtually take over the market. So energy efficient technologies like LEDs actually save people money and help to reduce emissions by cutting down on the amount of electricity that we have to use. All of these car manufacturers are now offering or preparing to offer electric vehicles. So this is kind of another part of the sustainability revolution, as you all know. So, well, can we change? The answer is a big fat yes. But what about that final question? Will we change? Well, there's some exciting news. So in December of 2015, as I'm sure you're aware, at the Paris climate negotiations, every nation in the world agreed to phase down greenhouse gas pollution to net zero emissions as early as 2050. And climate action isn't just about what countries do. We all have to take the lead on climate. We're seeing corporations, states, provinces, municipalities commit to reducing emissions. And this is truly the solution: collaboration and working together. We're seeing also marches and demonstrations and demands at the ballot box for the change that's necessary to solve the climate crisis. So you can see this climate march happening in Washington in 2017. And then also this youth climate strike on Sherbrooke Street in Montreal. So it really is up to us to stand for all initiatives, from movements big or small, local or global. The important thing is really to get involved and inform ourselves on how to meaningfully promote a more sustainable life on Earth. And luckily, there are a variety of small everyday changes that people can do that really add up to make a huge collective difference. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because most people are already aware of them, but I still want to mention them because I think they're still important. So the first one, well, change your transportation. Transportation accounts for almost half of our air pollution, more than a third of greenhouse gas emissions. So what you can do to lessen this impact is choosing public transport, a bike, or your feet over a car. And in many cities, gradually more options are also available that help you make the switch. But if you can't go around using a car, choose one that is energy efficient. And to help your decision, the Canadian government actually launched the app AutoSmart, which you can see how a particular car ranks in fuel efficiency, pollution, and much more. So if you want to check that out, it's called AutoSmart. And as a substitute to public transport, there's also carpooling, which is a really simple option to cut your emissions and also save you money. Fly less. Well, even though this point is related to the last point and transportation, it really deserves its own slide because cutting air miles is considered one of the most impactful ways to decrease GHG emissions. And flying is, like I said, it's very important. So try to book your vacation closer to home. And if you can't, try to offset your air travel. Plant greens. So planting green has various benefits. By cultivating your own food, you can ensure that green agricultural practices, but also safe transportation emissions, but also while enjoying delicious homegrown food. So yeah, consider urban gardening, plant a tree in your garden. Those are all really fun options. Consume responsibly. A great part of GHG emissions or GHG gases are actually released through the production and shipping of products. So by buying local products and such with green labels, you can actually decrease the effect that your consumption has on the planet. So again, try to consume local, organic, vegan, try to trade things, and in general, just try to buy less. And one other positive news is actually the Health Canada's new food guide that for the first time suggests a move towards a more plant-based diet. So that's actually a move that had been applauded by vegetarians and vegans around the world. In particular, there's guideline one that suggests more frequent consumptions of plant-based proteins and reminds consumers to be mindful of the environmental impact of the food consumption. So that's also another aspect to think about. Reducing waste. Well, waste is unsustainable and harmful for the environment, as actually landfills create methane gas, which traps 25 times more heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide does. So reducing waste is important. Avoid single-use items, buy only as much as you can, and again, try to recycle and compost, and try to do it properly. Saving energy. Saving energy is not necessarily the most impactful action, but it's very easy to achieve. The most energy in Canadian homes is actually used through heating and air conditioning, which makes up of 54% of our energy consumption. So it's therefore recommended to heat your home to no more than 21 degrees Celsius and to use fans instead of air conditioning, as the latter consumes great amounts of electricity. And then when you're not home, try to turn down heating and cooling devices until you do come back home. And also, like I mentioned before with the LEDs, try to buy energy efficient light bulbs. And of course, just saving water is a good way to reduce your carbon footprint. Around 20% of a household's energy is actually used for heating water. So this means that reducing your water consumption goes hand in hand with saving energy. And now, a very important one, in my opinion, is raising awareness. So spread your knowledge and raise awareness. Inform yourself about green living, but also share your knowledge with your friends and family and encourage them to reduce their carbon emissions. To me, that's an easy way to do it. Not always easy, but if you do have friends and family that are open to it, try to share your knowledge as much as you can. And again, another really important one, advocate for the cause. Well, we know that changes often comes from policies, so advocate for the cause in your community. Let your local politicians know that you support carbon taxes, divestment, and organic agriculture. Politicians know that they need your vote to get elected and will mirror the demands of people like you. So you could, for example, write them a letter or sign a petition, or you can join groups that fight for the climate, which brings us to kind of the second part of my presentation, Campus Core. So we'll go into kind of the second part of the presentation, where I will be presenting one of our programs that we do here at the Climate Reality Project called Campus Core. So with that, let me introduce you to our Campus Core program. So we at Climate Reality Canada know that it's important for students and youth to have a leadership within the climate movement. Students have always been at the forefront of demanding change and making change, and the climate movement is no different. Campus Core is really a special program specifically geared towards youth and students who want to take their concern about the climate crisis and turn it into meaningful action while connecting with fellow activists and gaining new leadership skills. So the Campus Core initiative is actually a student-led program that helps academic institutions become more responsible members of the community. So it provides an avenue for students to take charge and create their own future, starting right on your campus. So students will receive guidance in designing campaigns and organizing fellow students to convince their schools to embrace sustainability. So Campus Core chapters will actually work in parallel with our community climate hubs to catalyze a global solution to the climate crisis by demanding urgent university-based action. So with direct support from staff at Climate Reality, Campus Core students are building strategic and creative campaigns to really raise awareness about the climate crisis and push their schools to take action. But above all, Campus Core students are really just taking their seat in the decision-making table to ensure that our future is accounted for. So most of our Campus Core chapters, like I mentioned, are running campaigns at the institutional level, or campaigns that involve changing the way that your university operates. But these campaigns fight for the future of your campus and speeds the university's transition to a clean energy economy by changing the infrastructure, the policies, and endowments of your university. But you're also welcome to work at the local and provincial level to make your community a better place if that's something you would rather do than focus on your university. So there's actually three main goals that steer the initiative. The first one is to, let me just bring it up on the slide, to push for greener practices on campus, notably in terms of energy sourcing, to bring administrations to divest from fossil fuels, and to push for climate justice to be deeply ingrained in the school's curriculums. So those are kind of the three objectives that we have, but in the end, students are welcome to really tackle any campaigns that they want or focus on any issues that they find relevant to their campus. We really just want the schools to become greener and more sustainable campuses. And to quickly go through an example of what these levels of action look like in action, well, I just want to share one of our flagship campaigns with you and kind of how our Campus Core chapters are leading the charge on them. So students can take countless initiatives to pressure campuses. For example, strikes, rallies, petitions, letter to boards, lobbying, and more. They take part in campaigns, for example, such as the divestment one, like you can see on this slide, or the 100% Committed campaign, which is an initiative that builds student pressure to convince administrators to commit to 100% renewable electricity by 2030. So we have different partners that can also help along the campaigns that you choose to run. So for example, we partner here at the Climate Reality Project with the Divest Canada Coalition, which is Canada's largest group of students calling for our universities and colleges to divest from fossil fuels. So they really provide different opportunities for your chapters to learn more about specific campaigns, but also help you run a divestment campaign, for example, if that's what you're interested in. So why should students participate? So for students, it's really a chance to create a sustainability culture right on campus and raise your university's ambitions for yourself, but also for future generations of students. It's a way for you to improve your organizational, leadership, activism, and campaign development skills with the help of the resources that we have here, but also with our peer-to-peer mentorship. It's a way to gain access to professional opportunities. And it's also a way to integrate a pan-Canadian network of student leaders through which inspiring stories and best practices may be shared. It's also a way to get access to a bit of funding for the campaigns that you put in place. But most of all, it's really an opportunity to make a lasting difference at your university, for the future, and on the world. So there are currently 25 Campus Core chapters in the world. On different university campuses, but most of them are found on US campuses. So in addition to the students, there's also faculty, alumni, and staff that can also take part in these initiatives. So while some of our campuses that I showed you on the previous slide are already making meaningful change in the USA, and in light of their success, well, we really wanted to implement the program on Canadian soil. So some example of success stories that I'd like to mention quickly. First of all, we have the Campus Core chapter on the campus of DePaul University in Chicago. They actually encourage a transition to renewable energy with peers on campus. And this played a huge role in getting the city of Chicago to commit to 100% clean electricity by 2035. It's actually the largest city in the country to commit to renewables. There's also the Campus Core chapter members at Duane University, who were the first units to introduce the divestment bill to the Board of Trustees. And they collected over, I believe, 500 petition signatures and support, and published an opinion editorial. So the Duane University Board of Trustees actually passed a resolution to stop current and end all future investment in fossil fuels companies, which is really great. And finally, we also have 40,000 students that came together for a national day of action on 60 campuses, publicly calling on President Obama and the US to stop climate change and really jumpstart a global shift to clean energy. And Obama was actually so impressed that he wrote a thank you letter to some of those campus corps students. So to sum up, Campus Corps chapters really connect you with like-minded climate activists looking to make real change on university campuses just like yours. And really, in the end, the only prerequisite to starting a chapter is the desire to make a difference. And how are our Campus Corps doing that? Campus Corps chapters doing that? Well, we at Climate Reality are doing as much as possible to make sure that our chapters have the tools and resources that they need to be successful to build a sustainable chapter structures. So some of the most valuable tools that we have to help accomplish this is our Campus Corps Toolkit, which is a 50-page guide on everything from setting up your chapter to really winning your campaign. And we also offer one-on-one staff support to check in and really provide professional organizing strategy support and work through your campaign steps. And we know that there's a lot of tactics under there that might be new to some folks. So that's totally okay. That's why we've created trainings on each of these topics with our chapter training series. So these resources actually cover everything from the basics on like how to table or how to recruit, how to set up goals, knowing your political power, or preparing for a campaign win, for example. So there's really some great resources in there. So hopefully by now you are excited to learn more about what it takes to start a Campus Corps chapter. And if we're representing this initiative to you today, it's because your campus has actually been chosen as one of the high potential campuses for a pilot year. So your campus showed some great potential to become a stronger leader in its community and also to put in place bold climate initiatives. So with this opportunity, you could actually become some of the first students to be part of the Campus Corps program in Canada and join the fight against the climate change. So we do have chapters at the moment. We have 3 Campus Corps chapters at the moment in Canada, but the initiative has really recently been launched. So we're always looking for more campuses. And all you need to get started is really just 5 friends. So reach out to interested students and feel free to share our Campus Corps one-pager that I can share with you all. So really, all you have to do is gather a total of 5 students, so 1 chapter chair that will be kind of your direct report, and 4 leadership committee members from the same university committed to starting a Campus Corps chapter. And when you have those 4 other members that you're ready to start a Campus Corps chapter, well, all you need to do is submit an application. And the application is super straightforward, no essays required, no tough questions. It's really just contact information. So you can ask the chapter chair and the 4 leadership committee members to complete the application form with the contact information. And lastly, kind of the responsibilities that come with having and creating a Campus Corps chapter are the following. So being engaged and being mobilized, those are really the 2 important things that if you do want to participate in there, we ask all of our chapters to be engaged. To have a campaign development, but also execute the activities that you mentioned and that you were planning at the beginning of the semester. Recruiting more chapter members, which is really important if you want to build a momentum and not get exhausted in the activities that you're planning. And then monthly check-ins with the youth engagement coordinator, which is me. So really just corresponding with Climate Reality Canada staff and updating us on your work and your progress. All right, so for more information about this initiative, feel free to reach out to me. That you can see my email in there, but I can put it in the chat once I stop sharing my screen. So yeah, feel free to really reach out to us or to me if you have any questions about the program. Or you can also check out the Campus Corps page that at the link that you can also see on the slideshow. And again, I can put that in the chat if ever you want to look at it. You want to look at the particular Campus Corps website. But if you would like to get involved beyond the academic context, well, also feel free to head to our Climate Reality Canada website to learn more about all of our various programs. So one of which is our global training of climate reality leaders, which is a worldwide community of over 37,000 climate reality leaders that were trained by Al Gore to lead change through compelling communications and impactful actions. We also make impacts at the municipal level through our network of community climate hubs. And side note, we also have a really great climate hub here in Calgary that would be really amazing to connect you with if ever you're interested in joining us with Campus Core or with the community climate hubs. We have our National Climate League, which is an exercise in open data, providing a platform for cities across Canada to track and compare their progress on a variety of climate indicators. And then finally, we have the Campus Core program, which I just basically explained in the last 10 minutes. So I won't go over it again, but here's kind of like all of the programs that we lead here in our organization, but feel free to head to our website to really learn more about how you can get involved in those programs. So I think that's it for me. I don't know if I talk too much, I'll stop sharing. But yeah, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat or unmute yourself. I don't know exactly how this platform works, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything I just mentioned.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daphne. I'm just joining you on the stage here.
Yeah.
I hope that you can see all the chat and everything. And I really appreciate you sharing your contact information as well as all the other information that people can use to kind of find information about the Campus Core, as well as about the Climate Reality Project. Honestly, you did such a great presentation. That was so thorough. You really touched all the bases of where students and people that are trying to get involved, like where to go and what to expect. So that was really amazing. Thank you. There is one comment in the chat here. I'll just quickly show it on the stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so your presentation was super interesting and informative, and it was really enjoyable. Irene here was asking if the Climate Reality Project was also looking to partner with younger communities.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't actually work with high schools and elementary schools yet for Campus Core, but we are always looking to really partner with younger communities. So we have a lot of opportunities that we kind of provide for younger communities, but not that don't necessarily relate to Campus Core, if that makes sense. So to give you a quick example, this summer we organized what we called the Campus Climate Action Summit, which was 7 sessions. So all during the summer, 7 sessions on a training on a variety of climate topics where you could really get familiar with all of the topics that relate to climate. And then at the end, you would get kind of a certificate that mentioned that you participated in this training. We had workshops, we had speakers. So that's kind of one example of ways that high school students would be more than welcome to join that program. And we do, again, provide opportunities and activities for younger communities. And that's really something that we're trying to kind of expand and explore more as now that we have a youth engagement coordinator, if that makes sense, because we didn't used to have one. So definitely we're trying to explore working with younger communities, but they're not involved in the Campus Core program yet, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Daphne. Yeah, and I actually had a quick question. I don't think you had gone over it in your presentation. Yeah. Just as far as putting together these chapters within the universities, is there a certain term length that students are involved in this? For example, is it for the school year, or does it go beyond and is just kind of also outside of the university?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is very flexible. The way that we do it is that we always train students on how, once they graduate, if, for example, on how to kind of pass down the information that's been happening, pass down all of that, what's been happening on campus to other students for the chapter really continue and survive throughout the years. But there's really no specific length as to you need to be involved for this amount of time. What we do is usually for the school year. So we start at the beginning of the fall semester, we'll put in place a campaign, really set the goals for the school year, really start planning on what they want to do for the school year, what they want to focus on, and the goals and the strategy that they want to implement for the school year. So that's kind of the way we've been doing it, but it's very flexible because there's often a lot of turnover and kind of like members coming in and members graduating, then hopefully the way we do it is kind of just survival of the chapter throughout the years, but with different students. But there's no like specific timeline as like when you should be doing it, but it usually takes place over the school year. So that's how we've been doing it. And then once they graduate, that's kind of the great thing about our program is that they can keep kind of working with us and keep up with their activism with the other programs that we have. So I mentioned the community climate hubs, which really focus on municipalities. So once they graduate, some of those students often kind of join the community climate hubs that's in their region, or they take part of the training that I mentioned, and then they become an official climate reality leader. So there's many ways to kind of keep working with us once you've done graduating. But yeah, we recommend really focusing on like one campaign for the school year, and then hopefully, keep working with us as long as they want. But there's no specific deadlines.
Awesome. No, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and if anyone has any other questions, we'll definitely open up the floor here for you guys, and Daphne can get to that. Otherwise, if there's not many questions rolling in, actually, Irene's also asked, has there ever been a collaboration between 2 or more campuses and chapters? Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's always something that we're trying to encourage. We do have kind of organize these networking events where chapters that we have can meet other chapters and kind of talk about the strategy that they've been working on and share kind of the initiatives that they've been implementing on their campus. But there hasn't been yet a collaboration simply because they've been in very different provinces so far. So we do have one chapter at the University of British Columbia, and the other one at the University of Waterloo, which talked a little bit in those networking events, but it was a little bit more difficult to kind of create this momentum or have this concrete collaboration because they're in different provinces and it's all being done online. But there has been some kind of sharing best practices and sharing knowledge and kind of sharing what's been happening on their campus versus the other campus. So that's kind of like the great, I find, a plus to this program is that you get to meet other students who are really, again, fighting for the climate crisis just like you, but also it's just a great opportunity to meet other people who share similar values and kind of are fighting for the same thing. So again, there hasn't been like a concrete collaboration as like 2 campuses working on the same campaign because they have kind of just different realities and different issues on their provinces and on their campuses. But there's definitely been some networking happening within our chapters. I don't know if that answered your question, but
from my understanding, I think you answered the question really well. I think just following up on that really quickly. So you said that various campuses and chapters have kind of been able to collaborate and share their best practices and knowledge. Is there a specific platform or website that they kind of go on, like a forum where they do exchange this, or is it kind of just casually?
I'd say it's a little bit more casually just through our Zoom platform. So it really depends on kind of like the schedule of the students when they want to do it, because obviously students are overwhelmed and there's a lot happening in their lives. So we don't want to be like forcing those networking sessions on them. It's really kind of just checking in as to like, would you be free for a little networking event this week or next week? So it's been done really casually through like Zoom and just meeting online. So there isn't really like a dedicated platform for sharing those best practices, but it's been kind of just done in an informal setting on Zoom, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone else had any more questions for Daphne, you're so welcome to ask and shoot it in the chat.
Yeah, otherwise feel free, like I said, I put my email in the chat. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about what I mentioned today.
Yeah, if possible, could you actually also share that link to the campus core in the chat here as well?
Yes, let me do that right now.
Thank you.
There you go. This is the website to Campus Core. Awesome. And I can actually put also our website to Climate Reality if that's helpful.
Yeah. And this session is being recorded and will likely be placed somewhere else where students and anyone else who's interested will be able to access it. And so they will definitely have all this information on there from your presentation. Otherwise, if we're not getting any questions in, I don't want to take up more of your time. I really appreciate. Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to play my little video. It's really not long. It's just a 2-minute video, but I really want to share it because I find it super inspirational. So I'll end the session on this video if you don't mind.
Okay, no, yeah, that's so perfect. I was waiting for the video. I was like, oh, maybe she decided not to play it today.
I totally forgot.
No problem. Right. I'll hide myself back again.
Okay.
And with that, so just before you start your video, so we'll be ending with Daphne's video here. And with that, I thank everyone for joining the session today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you are registered for our networking gala tonight, we are so excited to see you then. All right, I'll hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here today and listening to me. And we'll end the session on the video. Alrighty.
Why did the generation before me leave us with a lot of environmental problems?
Where is the action that was once promised in spirit?
There's so much power the world has, but we just don't do anything.
This isn't just us we're losing. This is future generations, the planet as a whole.
For me, this is not a problem that will only affect our future generations, but one that affects me now.
Why?
Why?
¿Por qué?
My question to the United Nations is,
Why?
why do you sit here and pretend and do nothing?
Why do we continue doing nothing when these drastic weather changes are already claiming the lives of people?
Why wait until it's too late to stop using fossil fuels?
Why do we continue to scour the globe for the last of the dwindling resources?
Why don't you take more action?
What are you leaders afraid of?
The environmental issues that are most important to me, for one, it's the drought,
The dredging of the Great Barrier Reef, the deforestation in Tasmania.
the dam that provides my city with water is predicted to be drying up by next month.
All these organisms are becoming extinct.
Com a floresta amazônica sendo destruída, muita pouca umidade vem aqui para a região sul e sudeste, então provavelmente daqui a alguns anos a gente passa a ter pouquíssima água aqui.
My dad wanted to try put a wind turbine in our garden. The council said no, it doesn't look pretty enough. If we actually want to try make a change, you've got to help us try make a change. When my generation grows up, we may not have the time to hold summits about climate because it will have already affected us too much.
To the leaders at the UN, I would like to ask, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not come up with region-specific solutions?
Why not?
Make the change to clean energy.
Why not focus on increasing the efficiency of renewable energy sources?
Why not inform and engage the students of this generation to act upon climate change?
Why not give tax benefits on green energy?
Por que não criar programa mais forte de proteção ambiental?
Why not be committed to a future for your people?
Me and the whole next generation are counting on you.
Why not now?
Why not now?
Why not now?
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And thank you for having me.